We reviewed dozens of strikes on American tanks in Ukraine and counted no fewer than 10 ways to destroy one of the best tanks in the world, even with additional protection bolted on. And here is exactly how one of those deadly scenarios usually plays out. The Abrams crew can't hear the drone. The armor turns the tank into a solid safe. The expensive EW system on the roof adds to that feeling of being untouchable, like everything's been thought of, but that's a completely false sense of reality.
We were counting on having the armor here. We just weren't warned that they'd removed it.
This Ukrainian tanker is talking about the depleted uranium armor that isn't fitted on the Ukrainian version of the Abrams. So Donbas, where the Abrams made its combat debut in early 2024, became its Armageddon. American tanks haven't taken a beating this hard since World War II.
If they'd informed us earlier, we could have fitted Contact 1 in time and saved both the vehicles and the personnel.
What's wrong with the Abrams armor package for Ukraine? Why does even the add-on protection fail to save them? And would the classified depleted uranium armor have made a difference? You're about to find out. And then we'll get into the new protection solution that American tankers came up with themselves, because they've been watching the same footage you're about to see, very carefully. Fair warning though, there are a lot of destroyed American tanks ahead. A lot. If the hard truth doesn't scare you, hit that like button, so this video reaches as many people as possible. Thank you. So let's start with a secret that's over 40 years old. The Abrams really does have a special armor variant that incorporates depleted uranium, but that doesn't mean the tank is made of uranium. DU armor is a multi-layer sandwich of steel, ceramic, and other classified components, with depleted uranium plates sitting inside that sandwich. But no country in the world that operates the Abrams has the DU armor version, so it's no surprise Ukraine didn't get it either. So what armor does the Ukrainian variant of the Abrams actually have? Instead of the classified depleted uranium inserts, the armor package uses a combination of ceramic, steel, and tungsten. That's the standard configuration for all export Abrams variants, essentially an analog of the Chobham Burlington armor. So how does it hold up under fire?
If an ATGM hits, the missile punches straight through the tank, enters the turret from the driver's side, and exits out the other side.
An anti-tank missile is a serious piece of hardware. The Russians claim that in this footage, a Russian T-72B3 is firing exactly that kind of missile. However, that can't be confirmed due to a rough cut in the edit. But based on the nature of the explosion, it's safe to say this is an anti-tank missile, most likely fired from an ATGM system of the Cornet type. Anti-tank missiles carry a tandem-shaped charge warhead. The first charge detonates the ERA, if there is any, and milliseconds later, the second charge punches through the main armor with a jet of molten metal. But what happens when there's no ERA at all? Without explosive reactive armor, a tandem anti-tank missile becomes even more lethal because the armor takes a double hit with nothing to disrupt it. By design, the Abrams should be able to absorb that hit.
Oh no, its armor no longer meets modern battlefield requirements.
That's exactly why the Ukrainians started fitting Contact 1 ERA. They were counting on it heavily, but those hopes burned away like smoke after a shot. If you're already subscribed to our channel, you've probably seen the video where Ukrainian tankers walk through exactly how they bolt those Soviet-era blocks onto American armor. So we'll save your time and skip over that here. But if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, so you don't miss our videos covering how Western weapons actually perform in real combat conditions. So with Contact 1 in the picture, the Abrams battlefield survivability seemed to improve. But the Russians quickly figured out a new way to kill American tanks. Drones, the curse of this war. But a drone carries a smaller shaped charge than an ATGM. So why is it actually more dangerous than an anti-tank missile? Here's the thing. An anti-tank missile flies up to 5 kilometers along a laser beam, which means the tank has to be in the direct line of sight of the operator. Those conditions don't come up very often. On top of that, on Russian ATGMs, the gunner can't redirect the missile into the rear or the roof if the tank is facing them head-on. In other words, where the missile hits depends entirely on how the tank is positioned. And if it strikes the frontal turret armor from long range, there's a real chance the Abrams will take the hit and survive. But a drone has none of those limitations. It flies for many kilometers, and the operator, sitting safely in the rear, can choose exactly where and when to strike. While the frontal turret armor of the Abrams handles a drone hit just fine, if the strike lands on the turret roof, where the armor is thin, there are no chances. Drones swoop down like vultures from the sky and can tear an Abrams apart in literally just a few minutes. An experienced operator can even thread a strike into the gap between add-on protection blocks. So how do you defend against this? The stopgap solution was protective netting, which stops the drone at a safe distance from the armor. But experienced operators work in teams. First they tear through the net, then they send the next drone straight through the hole. So EW systems became the better answer. The thing is, drones are controlled over a radio channel, but when a drone enters an EW jamming zone, instead of a clear picture, the operator sees this. The interference stops operators from guiding drones into the Abrams' most vulnerable spots, or the drones lose the signal entirely and drop. But that advantage didn't last long. A different type of drone appeared on the battlefield. This little killer's flight doesn't depend on radio waves at all. Trailing behind it in the air is an almost invisible fiber optic thread, stretching 10, sometimes 20 kilometers. It's thin and nearly transparent, but tough as a nerve fiber. So the operator sees his target perfectly, even right next to an EW system. Right now, the Abrams on the battlefield is like a mammoth that knows its time has passed. First, a recon UAV appears in the sky, hovering high above the battlefield, patiently looking down. To it, a tank is just a large, warm machine visible through the trees. Once the target is found, the hunt begins. Fiber optic strike drones go up into the air. They fly low to the ground, hugging tree lines, hills, and ruins. Sometimes there are several of them at once. The operator takes his time and carefully searches for a weak point. He knows the frontal armor of the Abrams is extremely tough, so the drone doesn't go for the front. His targets are the turret roof, the engine compartment, or the rear hull. The armor there is far thinner. The goal? Immobilize the tank. While the Abrams is absorbing hits, the crew has time to bail out and take cover. The final seconds of a tank's life look almost identical every time. So would the classified depleted uranium armor have saved the Abrams? Each DU armor plate is 19 millimeters thick, which is equivalent to 40 millimeters of conventional armor. Each armor package with DU armor has a thickness equivalent to 900 millimeters of rolled homogeneous armor. But they're only fitted to the front of the turret, specifically on these cheeks. Why? Statistics from previous wars show that up to 80% of hits in tank-on-tank combat land right there, because the lower hull is almost always hidden behind terrain folds, bushes, or debris. And the survive and fire tactic used by Abrams crews in defense assumes the tank is sitting in a hull-down position, engaging targets with precision fire, thanks to its excellent optics and fire control system. But in this war, there are no tank duels. And instead of survive and fire, crews are operating on a shoot and scoot principle. Because the main threat is drones, and they only need a few minutes to find a tank and hit it from behind. So DU armor has lost much of its former relevance. So it goes. Of course, the Ukrainians will come up with something new, as they have many times throughout this war. And here's how American tankers have absorbed the Ukrainian experience. Right now, 350 American tanks are being fitted with a new passive protection system, the GM1914 VPS Top Attack Protection. This is a passive add-on armor system installed over the upper hemisphere of the hull and turret on top of the base armor. Interesting to see how it will protect against FPV drones, loitering munitions, and top attack anti-tank missiles in the next Gulf War with Iran. Here's what we found out when a drone or a missile with a shaped charge warhead hits a VPS panel. The multi-layer composite materials cause the warhead to detonate prematurely, and disrupt the formation of the high-velocity shaped charge jet. As a result, the penetrating power of the munition is significantly reduced, and the Abrams thin roof armor takes a much weaker hit. If it's a drone drop or a fragmentation round, the multi-layer VPS structure absorbs the blast wave and catches the fragments, preventing them from punching through the thin armor around the hatches or damaging the observation equipment. But the most important thing, this is a factory solution. No nets, no improvised cages, no heavy contact one blocks bolted on. The panels are designed as individual segments that can be quickly swapped out in the field after taking damage. Sounds impressive, but drop a comment below. Will this new VPS top attack protection system make the Abrams great again and redefine its role in the war with Iran? Either way, we want to hear what you think. And check out these playlists, where you'll find more great videos on Western weapons in the war in Ukraine. Stay safe and support Ukraine.